The paradox of morality. The tension between moral codes and human imperfection. Morality is often seen as the foundation of ethical societies, guiding individuals on how to behave and interact with others. It sets boundaries, delineates right from wrong, and offers a framework for justice, fairness, and integrity. Yet, moral codes, by their very nature, are restrictive. They often present prohibitions, drawing clear lines between what is permissible and what is not. For the individual, the moral can be experienced as a constraint, the immoral as a conflict with societal norms, and the amoral, a rejection of any ethical framework, can feel like a dangerous leap into chaos. But within this moral landscape lies a difficult truth. Those who champion morality are often guilty of violating it in secret. Hypocrisy, the act of preaching virtue while privately engaging in vice, is an inherent danger in any moral system. The paradox of morality is not just a theoretical problem. It is a real and recurring issue throughout history, present in our everyday lives, in institutions, and in leaders who profess ethical behavior but fail to live up to their own standards. Understanding why this happens and how we can better navigate the tension between moral ideals and human imperfection requires a closer examination of moral codes, hypocrisy, and the nature of human behavior. Moral systems are designed to create order in society by defining what is right and wrong. Whether drawn from religious traditions, cultural norms, or philosophical reasoning, moral codes are inherently prohibitive. They tell us what not to do, whether it's lying, cheating, stealing, or harming others. In many ways, these prohibitions are necessary for social cohesion. Without shared moral guidelines, society would struggle to function smoothly, as trust and cooperation depend on individuals following basic ethical principles. However, for the individual, the prohibitive nature of morality can also feel restrictive. Moral rules often require self-restraint, denying immediate gratification or personal desires in favor of the greater good or long-term benefits. This is why moral behavior is sometimes experienced as a burden, especially when the temptations of immoral actions seem more immediate and rewarding. This tension is well illustrated by the concept of the moral struggle, where individuals wrestle with impulses that conflict with their ethical beliefs. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, in his work Beyond Good and Evil, critiqued the prohibitive nature of morality, arguing that traditional moral systems stifled human creativity and freedom. Nietzsche believed that conventional morality often forced individuals to suppress their true nature in favor of conforming to societal norms. While Nietzsche's rejection of morality as a limiting force is extreme, it reflects a broader concern that moral codes, when too rigid, can suppress individual autonomy and personal expression. When individuals violate moral codes, they enter the realm of the immoral. Immoral actions, such as deceit, theft, or betrayal, are often condemned by society because they disrupt social harmony and harm others. Yet, immorality is problematic not only because of the damage it causes but also because it forces society to confront its own moral values. Immoral behavior exposes the imperfections of human nature and challenges the effectiveness of moral systems. One famous historical example of this conflict is the Watergate scandal, which involved U.S. President Richard Nixon's administration in the early 1970s. Nixon, a leader who had taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and serve the American people, was found to be involved in illegal activities, including the cover-up of a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters. The scandal led to Nixon's resignation, but it also shook the public's faith in government institutions. Here was a man who held the highest office in the land, tasked with upholding moral and legal standards, yet he engaged in secret immoral actions for personal and political gain. The Watergate scandal illustrates the problematic nature of immorality, especially when committed by those in power. Immoral actions force societies to re-examine their values, expose hypocrisy, and often result in a breakdown of trust in institutions and leaders. Nixon's actions created a crisis of confidence, not only in his leadership but in the very structures of American democracy. Amorality, the rejection of any moral or ethical considerations, represents a dangerous leap into uncertainty. Individuals or groups that embrace amorality operate outside the boundaries of right and wrong, driven solely by self-interest or power. While immoral behavior acknowledges the existence of moral codes and chooses to violate them, amorality denies the relevance of morality altogether. The consequences of amorality can be seen in the behavior of totalitarian regimes, where leaders reject moral principles in favor of absolute power. Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime in Germany is one of the most chilling examples of amorality in modern history. The Nazi government operated without regard for basic human rights, moral decency, or ethical behavior, leading to the genocide of 6 million Jews and millions of others during the Holocaust. The amorality of the Nazi leadership wasn't just about violating moral codes. It was about entirely rejecting the idea that morality should guide actions in the first place. The philosopher Hannah Arendt coined the term, the banality of evil, in her analysis of Adolf Eichmann, one of the architects of the Holocaust. Arendt observed that Eichmann, rather than being a fanatic or monster, was disturbingly ordinary. He operated with bureaucratic efficiency, following orders without questioning the morality of his actions. In Eichmann's case, amorality manifested as an unthinking compliance with evil, a jump into the moral void where ethical considerations were irrelevant. While moral systems aim to promote ethical behavior, they often come with an inherent danger. Those who most vocally advocate for morality are often guilty of violating it in secret. This hypocrisy, where individuals preach virtue while engaging in vice, is all too common. One famous example is the case of televangelists in the late 20th century, many of whom preached strict moral codes to their followers while privately engaging in unethical behavior. Jim Bakker, a prominent Christian televangelist, was convicted of fraud and conspiracy in the late 1980s after it was revealed that he had embezzled millions of dollars from his religious empire. Bakker's moral hypocrisy, presenting himself as a virtuous leader while secretly exploiting his followers, was emblematic of the disconnect between public morality and private vice. This hypocrisy is not limited to religious figures. Political leaders, corporate executives, and public figures often face accusations of moral double standards, where their private behavior contradicts their public statements. The reason for this is rooted in the fact that maintaining a moral image requires constant vigilance, and human beings are inherently fallible. The moral codes that people espouse can be difficult to live up to, especially when they conflict with personal desires, power, or greed. Given the prohibitive nature of morality, the challenges of immorality, and the dangers of amorality, how should individuals and societies navigate the moral landscape? One approach is to recognize that while moral systems are important, they must be tempered with humility and self-awareness. Moral perfection is an impossible standard, and those who claim it are often the most vulnerable to hypocrisy. Instead of rigidly enforcing moral codes or condemning others for their failings, societies can foster a culture of ethical reflection and personal growth. This involves acknowledging that people make mistakes, that moral improvement is a gradual process, and that forgiveness and understanding are crucial components of any moral system. As the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Moral growth requires both reflection on past actions and a commitment to living ethically in the present. By recognizing the complexities and imperfections of human nature, we can create moral systems that are not only prohibitive but also compassionate, allowing for both accountability and grace. The tension between the moral, the immoral, and the amoral reflects the complexity of human behavior. Morality, while necessary, is often prohibitive and challenging to uphold. Immorality forces societies to confront their own values, while amorality represents a leap into ethical chaos. And within all moral statements lies the potential for hypocrisy, as those who champion virtue are often guilty of violating it in secret. Ultimately, the solution to this paradox lies in acknowledging the imperfection of human beings while striving for ethical integrity. By balancing moral codes with humility, self-reflection, and compassion, individuals and societies can navigate the moral landscape more effectively, avoiding the pitfalls of hypocrisy and promoting a more just and ethical world.